It was just another night at work, and Officer Michael Gavro was conducting his routine inspection at the reserves. He is a man who takes his job seriously, especially when it comes to syrup. He's part of the Federation of Quebec Maple Syrup Producers, guardians of the precious reserve. Picture a high-security warehouse, rows upon rows of barrels, each containing hundreds of pounds of pure maple syrup. It was a routine inspection, just another day at the office for Officer Gavro. He walked the aisles, clipboard in hand, checking for anything out of the ordinary. Little did he know he was about to stumble upon a crime scene that would rock the maple syrup world. As Officer Gavro made his rounds, something felt off. One stack of barrels seemed lighter.
He grabbed a ladder, climbed up, and peered inside one of the barrels. Empty. He checked another. Empty again. Panic set in. This wasn't some rogue raccoon looking for a sugary snack. This was a full-blown heist.
Word spread like wildfire. The great Canadian maple syrup heist was on. $18 million worth of syrup vanished. The media went into a frenzy. How could this happen? Who would steal syrup? And most importantly, where do they keep the good stuff? To understand the audacity of this crime, you got to understand the process. Maple syrup production is a labor of love. It starts with tapping maple trees, collecting the sap, and then boiling it down. It takes about 40 gallons of sap to make just 1 gallon of syrup. This isn't some overnight operation. It's a delicate dance with Mother Nature, passed down through generations. So when someone steals the syrup, they're not just stealing a product. They're stealing history, tradition, and the livelihoods of countless families. The Maple Syrup Mafia. The investigation revealed a surprisingly organized operation. This wasn't a bunch of amateurs with a sweet tooth. This was the work of seasoned criminals, a veritable maple syrup mafia. In the shadowy underbelly of Quebec's maple syrup industry, a group of men orchestrated a heist that would soon become legendary. At the helm was Richard Vollier, the ringleader whose vision drove the operation. With the support of his father, Raymond Vollier, who provided the necessary headquarters, Richard was poised to challenge the very system that he believed exploited the hard-working farmers of their region. Etienne, the man in charge of selling the stolen syrup, worked with precision, ensuring that the illicit product reached the market without raising suspicion. Sebastian, the syrup trucker, was tasked with the crucial job of transporting the barrels, while Avik acted as the inside man, providing valuable information that kept their operation one step ahead of detection. Their method was deceptively simple, yet effective. Over several months, they would remove barrels of syrup, siphon out the rich liquid, and refill the barrels with water, carefully returning them to their original locations to avoid alarming anyone. As time passed, however, their confidence grew, and they began to forego the refilling process altogether, opting instead for speed. This reckless decision ultimately led to their downfall, as the absence of water-filled barrels raised suspicions and brought the operation into the light. They had inside men, transportation, and a network of buyers ready to move the stolen goods. They siphoned off the syrup gradually, replacing it with water to avoid detection. It was a brazen plan executed with precision. But even the most cunning criminals can't outrun the long arm of the law, especially when it's coated in sticky, delicious syrup. The motive, but what drove Richard Vollier to undertake such a high-stakes heist? For Richard, it was not merely a financial gain that spurred him on. It was a profound desire to make a statement against the Fédération des Producteurs Agricoles du Québec, FPQ. He viewed the organization as a corrupt entity, a maple syrup mafia of sorts, that had strayed from its original mission of supporting local farmers, and had instead become a cartel that wielded power over them. The FPAQ, once founded to protect and promote Quebec's maple syrup producers, had in Richard's eyes transformed into a behemoth that exploited those it was meant to serve. As we speak about the motivations behind the heist, it becomes clear that this was not just about syrup. It was about standing up against an unjust system that Richard believed was suffocating the very lifeblood of his community. Maple syrup, with its high value and long shelf life, had become a target for organized crime. This sweet liquid gold was more than just a breakfast staple. It was a lucrative commodity, that could be sold on the black market for a hefty profit. The global demand for this liquid gold had skyrocketed, and these criminals saw an opportunity to cash in. As prices soared, so did the temptation to exploit the market, turning a simple product into a high-stakes game of risk and reward. But there was another, more complex layer to the story. It wasn't just about organized crime, it was about the people behind the scenes, those who were caught in the crossfire of economic instability. Some of those involved were struggling maple syrup producers themselves, facing financial hardship due to fluctuating prices and market pressures. These were hardworking individuals who had dedicated their lives to this industry, only to find themselves on the brink of collapse. They felt pushed to the edge, driven to desperate measures to protect their livelihoods. The heist was not just a crime, it was a cry for help, a desperate attempt to reclaim some semblance of stability in their lives. In the end, it was a story of sweet greed and desperate times, a tale that revealed the darker side of human nature and the lengths to which people will go when pushed to their limits. Justice served, the long arm of the law. The investigation took time, but justice, like maple syrup, is best savored slowly. The authorities infiltrated the criminal network, tracking the stolen syrup across borders and uncovering a web of deceit. Arrests were made, and the ringleaders faced the full force of the law. Parties involved were caught and prosecuted, with Richard Vollier sentenced to 8 years in prison and ordered to pay back $9 million to the FPAQ. But despite the heist, the FPAQ remains the governing body of the maple syrup industry in Quebec. Aftermath and legacy protecting the liquid gold. The great Canadian maple syrup heist sent shockwaves through the industry, shaking the very foundation of trust and security that producers had relied on for years. In response, security measures were significantly heightened. The Federation of Quebec Maple Syrup Producers, often referred to as the OPEC of maple syrup, emerged stronger and more vigilant, determined to protect their precious resource from future threats. The heist served as a wake-up call, a stark reminder of the immense value of this liquid gold and the extraordinary lengths to which people would go to obtain it. It highlighted vulnerabilities and prompted a re-evaluation of security protocols across the industry. But beyond the sensational headlines and the drama of courtrooms, the true legacy of the heist lies in the resilience and unity of the maple syrup industry. Producers banded together, sharing knowledge and resources to ensure the future of their craft. It's a testament to the generations of families who have poured their hearts and souls into producing this Canadian treasure. From the elders who passed down their wisdom to the young children learning the ropes, the tradition of maple syrup production is a deeply rooted part of their heritage. The syrup may be sticky, but the bonds of tradition and community are even stronger. These bonds have only been fortified by the challenges faced, proving that the spirit of the maple syrup producers is unbreakable.